A few years back, wearables became the buzzword, but this year there's been a lot of talk about hearables. Now that could mean a personal training session or real-time translation directly into a pair of earbuds. But this week I'm putting to the test a few devices that aim to give you a hearing test and as a result optimise what you're listening to. Even for those of us who are unaware of having any defect, the chances are our lifestyles will have had some impact on our hearing, and due to this, we don't all hear things in exactly the same way.
We have a huge range of hearing from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz, and there are various causes of different types of hearing impairment. So we could have a hearing loss through aging, it could be through a noise-induced hearing element as well.
But can some headphones balance this out, and do we actually need them to? I popped into one of our peaceful radio studios to find out. So first of all, I have these Ava headphones. Now I need to do a hearing test to create my profile. What we're doing here is finding the quietest part of my audible range throughout all the different frequencies. So let's get started. That's it. It takes about 10 minutes to go through this whole process for a full range of sound on both ears. Okay, so the results of my test, I can tell that each ear seems to hear differently from each other, but beyond that, obviously, it doesn't mean a huge amount. But what I can do now is I can put the headphones to the test. Okay, so it says here the first time that you experience this personalised sound, it may be very different from anything you have ever heard before. So it also says that it may be overwhelming for some people. Okay, sorry if I'm shouting. This is at 0% now. Let's apply 50%. Wow, it sounds a lot cleaner. The sound's a lot sharper. You can hear each element of the sound really clearly. The clarity at 100% is pretty good. Okay, so in optimising the sound for me, it seemed clearer, but obviously my test is pretty subjective. So what do the experts make of the concept?
With the Audiras, it uses a basic form of pure tone audiometry. This is something that we perform every day in the clinic, and it involves presenting different pitches and different tones and then measuring how loud we have to make it in order for somebody to be able to hear it. Audiras are stating that they take that into account with the settings on the headphones and then incorporate that, giving extra sound in the areas to compensate for any hearing loss.
The Mimi Music app works in a similar way and has been around a few years. After creating your earprint, it aims to optimise the music you listen to through any wired headphones. Just inputting your age does the job to some extent, although I ended up more impressed by the way you could tweak the sound around you. Here I have the Neuro headphones, which look pretty interesting for a start as they're sort of in-ear and over-ear. But they work differently. Instead of asking you whether you can hear something, they do the test for you, and they do it in just 60 seconds. They claim to do so by sending sound waves into your ear, which will trigger a reaction, sending electrical impulses to your brain and sound waves back out your ear. It's through measuring them that the app will create what it calls your hearing signature. In my not very scientific experiment here, I am noticing a much bigger difference between the generic and the personalised in these headphones. The music sounds totally different. It's different parts of the music that sound louder, and that's mixed in with just a real clear, crisp sound. But our expert had some questions over this upgrade of sound quality.
They do give you the opportunity with the headphones to be able to compare the generic settings with those taking into account your personal profile. There was a hugely marked difference between those two things when I actually tested them out on my hearing, which actually prompted me to go downstairs and use our diagnostic otoacoustic emission test and see if I had normally functioning ears, of which I did. So in terms of the reliability of that, in terms of the accuracy of how they actually come to those conclusions, I'm not entirely sure.
But would I want either of these over another pair of headphones at the same price point? Maybe the fact is that I don't need them. If my hearing was a little more damaged, there would be greater rewards to reap.
That was Lara, and now we go to one of the most remote communities in the Western world, the Faroe Islands, a nation with more sheep than people. But residents there have been given access to a new piece of software to help magnify their musical talents. Here's Paul Carter.
When you think of parts of the world innovating in technology, a rocky collection of islands in the North Atlantic might not be the first place that springs to mind. But the Faroe Islands, situated roughly halfway between Scotland and Iceland, are trying new ways of doing just that.
We talk a lot about the power of technology to bring people closer together. Well, the government here are experimenting with new ways to bring education to people across these islands and bring the world a little closer to them.
This remote collection of 18 islands are actually no stranger to technology. As well as leading mobile phone 4G connectivity in partnership with Chinese firm Huawei, they've also built a reputation for taking on the tech big guns and winning. More on that later. But it's their experiment with tech to enhance their cultural heritage that brought us here. The Faroese government has just announced that it will be making music education software Melodia available completely free to all of its 50,000 citizens.
So there's only one really specialized high-level music school here in the capital, in Tórshavn, but people who live on other islands can have that. So this is a perfect country to use technology to spread music education and music literacy throughout all the 18 islands of this country and make music accessible to all.
The web-based platform aims to teach music in the same way as a language and claims to be beneficial to everyone, from children to people with learning difficulties, right up to professional musicians.
We don't have access to the big universities or the best teachers in the world if we are not, if we don't use the digital platforms in any area you could think of. So we are very fond of the digital possibilities for our citizens.
It was not that difficult to get the government doing this because we are very proud of being this musical nation. We have, like, I don't know, 10 brass bands, a population of 50,000 people.
In 2016, the islands made worldwide headlines when its own version of Google Street View, named Sheep View, resulted in Google mapping the islands for its service. But they haven't stopped there.
Now when we have more and more tourists coming, they are also quite interested in our language somehow. But we were not present on Google Translate this time. So we thought that we should give Google another go and ask them if they could put the Faroese language on Google Translate.
They established Faroe Islands Translate, an online service in which requests were sent to Faroese volunteers, who recorded the translations on video and posted them on a dedicated website. As well as a useful tool to promote the islands, they also hoped it would again add pressure to Google.
Try it, and you will learn that we have 40 words for fog.
As yet, Google hasn't bowed to pressure a second time.
Two?
Yeah. We don't have the budgets as the UK have, for example. So we need to find something that works for us, and this works very well. It gives us the attention we wanted, but most of all, it shows our culture and our people.
But why is such a remote part of the world so keen to stay connected?
A part of it is to tell all the world that we are here and we have a language and we are a country and you should come visiting us or you should go and Google us on the computer because we are also here. Hello!
That was Paul in the Faroe Islands, and that's it for this week. Don't forget we live on Facebook and on Twitter at BBC Click. You can find loads more from us there every single day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.